Hey everybody, we're here after Corn Huckit on the ramps here. Just ended, awards wrapped up, and I've got some Flatland people I want to talk to today. I feel like everybody knows that Flatland exists, but I feel like a lot of people might not know really what Flatland is. So I've got Kim, I don't know how to say your last name.
Klisiak.
Dave Nourie, Trevor Watring. We all know Trevor. And I want to start by asking the simple question of I know nothing about Flatland. So I want first the definition and what is Flatland for anyone who might see it but what is Flatland?
I think it's Dave's question.
Yeah, for me, I started as a street rider in San Diego, and I had no brakes and just did basically jumping, little wheelies, manuals, and I started doing some tricks like a rock walk, frame stands, bar hop, and then I'd start going to the beach and we'd start getting together and having jam sessions. And that's how my Flatland evolved, is from riding with other riders and kind of playing off of our tricks. And that was many years ago. That was like 40 years ago. And now I'm actually putting out some contests that are encouraging maybe some other riders that would be more street-minded or park riders that would get into flat. Because for me, it's just having fun without a ramp or without a dirt jump or without a skate park.
That's how you define Flatland?
It's just riding our BMX and being creative on a flat surface.
Does that cover it well?
Yeah. I think it's evolved into a level of riding that can be very intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. I teach kids BMX, mostly Flatland, but also a little bit of jumping, and it's really just the emphasis on try to figure it out. What do you want to do? Let's stand on the handlebars, let's stand on the pegs and go backwards, whatever it is, and that's basically Flatland for me.
So I think there might be a misconception in the BMX world that Flatland is the hardest thing ever. I think that, but I also think that when people have that thought, they're not thinking of the Flatland they would learn first. They're thinking of what they see. Matthias Dandois, obviously, he's the most popular one that everyone knows. So what you're saying is Flatland doesn't have to be this super crazy hard thing when you're first starting it, because it's whatever you want it to be.
I would point out that almost all ramp riders are already doing Flatland. They're all doing hang fives. They're all doing hang nothings. They're all doing nose wheelies. Those are all Flatland tricks. They're already doing Flatland. They just don't think of it as Flatland.
Good point. Trevor, you had that thought too.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I got into some major tech riding, was just learning Flatland. And it's easy to learn it on the ground, and then the deck of the ramp is just flat ground. So if you think of it like that, tech riding becomes pretty simple,
Absolutely. I've grown up my entire life riding BMX, calling Flatland for myself and the things that I do driveway, because I'm doing whatever, and I did it in my driveway, and I didn't know until you told me yesterday you can enter a contest, a Flatland contest, and do these things, and it's it is Flatland. It's just an interesting concept. So I wanted to elaborate more on that kind of a thing and teach someone who might not know anything about Flatland just about Flatland. Maybe intrigue people to try it.
Yeah, I think there's lots of levels. Flatland can be really technical, really hard, really dedicated. Riders can be the type of rider that will go into a parking lot and just ride all night and work on one or two tricks, and that's relentlessly just try it over and over and over. And that's not for everybody. So if you're a park rider and maybe that hasn't been your style, then it's that's not really a good fit for you. But getting together with other people and hanging out and jamming and going, hey, look at me, I can do this, bunny hop bar spin. And then what if I did a bunny hop bar spin and landed on the peg in a manual? That's how Flatland can evolve. And so I feel for me, I've always been a performing rider, and I've always been around people, music, and buddies riding, people riding. And that's a perfect formula for myself. Other riders are all about going to a park, a parking lot, and just riding and challenging themselves and levels that, you know, are mind-blowing, like what you're saying. You see these riders nowadays, they're just, you know, so amazing what they can do on their BMX. So that's how I see it.
Absolutely. You had a thought about street riders and the things they're doing, hang fives and all of these things are flatland tricks, and I thought it was what sparked the idea to do this in the first place. And we may end up having to relocate here because this is pretty loud, but the thought is that like you could enter a flatland contest as a beginner doing those types of things. And like I just wanted to elaborate and basically say it again what you said yesterday, because it was a cool thought, and I think it's something that people like. There's that broken connection, I think, between the mainstream street whatever BMX and the flatland side of things, and I want to like try and help bridge that gap.
Sure. So at first the thing, you know, there's a lot of talk that flatland is dying, because if you look at flatlanders, you're going to see they're almost all over 30. Trevor's like one of the very few exceptions that's actually an under 30 rider. We need younger people getting into flatland to keep flatland alive, and part of that is done through contests. And you know, they are riding flatland. Unless they start coming out and entering contests, you know, that's going to eventually be the end of flatland BMX as a contest circuit in the U.S. another 10 years or so. So we need them coming out, we need them entering, and they need to know that they can enter.
Yeah.
The beginner class right now typically has 3 to 4 riders in it. So they
At
also,
what? Beginner class?
Beginner flatland.
And what contests?
So right now there's really only one contest series in the U.S. That's the AFA, the American Flatland Association. They have 3 stops a year and a finals contest. The only other contest would be Voodoo Jam, and that one is a pro level contest. So if they want to look it up, it'd be AFABMX.com, right? I believe that's the website for the contest locations. And there is a beginner class. And you know, those tricks that we were talking about, the hang fives, the hang nothings, the peg wheelies, that is beginner flatland. And they can very easily come, enter a contest, and get some exposure to the flatland side of the house, and have a chance at placing really well, because there really isn't a class right now. And I've always been big on promoting the girls' side of BMX and pushing for the more contests to happen and more involvement to happen, because you need people to see other people to grow something. You know, somebody can ride by themselves all day long, but if nobody ever sees them, did it help the sport at all? By people coming out and competing, other people see that, and then other people realize, oh hey, I can do that too. So if one street rider comes and has a lot of fun and tells his friends, well, now we potentially have more people coming. And it may encourage them to actually become more involved with flatland, and maybe be like Trevor and be a great hybrid rider who can do both ramp and flatland and place well in both.
Right. And I don't know if you would have seen this or not, but a couple years ago, I think it was Chad Curley who put it on, a flat ground game of bike in California. And there were like a ton of flatland guys there. And then you had the flatland guys playing in a game of bike against the street guys who showed up. And it was like, thinking about it now, it was like a really great bringing the two things together idea. And maybe something like that would be a good way to like try to bridge the gap. I mean, that's not necessarily like the focus of the talk we're having, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah. Well, something else I really miss are the CFB events, because the CFB events had street, park, flat, dirt, everything in one venue, and so you had that exposure to the other sports. We're now so segregated. It's either a dirt comp or a ramp comp or a flatland comp. And so again, you didn't recognize you were riding flatland because you haven't been around a flatland contest. Whereas if we can get back to that type of BMX where all the contests, sports, or events are in one spot, you get that exposure to the other events.
Kind of like Feast, how they do.
Yeah,
they'll have flatland.
Yeah, and I mostly think of the U.S. since most of us aren't flying to Europe on a regular basis.
Right.
But yeah, Europe does it better, Japan does it better, but here in the U.S. we've completely broken into segregated contests per event.
You do something really cool that I just heard you talking about earlier with your shows. Do you say that you have multiple bikes and you just let people?
Yeah, so I started this Gumby Land, and it's basically, I have about 20 plus bikes from 12-inch, 16, 18, and 20 inch, like just all set up in various. Some are brakeless, most of them have both brakes and all 4 pegs, because I feel like that's ideal to learn flatland on. It's not necessary, but it's ideal. And I just do these events where I'll do a little show, and then I'll just encourage the riders to ride and experience it. And it's been great. I really enjoy doing it. And I did have a really great group of girls. There was like 13 girls that came out. I'm working with some other camps that are local, and I'm kind of like a feature for the day, and they would just come, and I have all the bikes. and it's great because it's just about, like Kim was saying, just about exposure. And yes, contest is a really big one, and if we can, bring those events together, like here, like Carl is actually talking about bringing a whole Flatland and potentially a contest here. So he's going to do a flat, like, pour a big slab of concrete for us and have us as a regular feature here. And we'll continue to build that relationship with the local riders here. So yeah, I feel like Gumby Land is just a little bit of that opening the door for riders.
Yeah, and while you guys are talking about that, it reminded me of Trevor and how many times at Ray's have we had a whole group of people in the floor of the Subaru room trying Flatland tricks.
It's really cool because a lot of people are interested in Flatland. They are interested. They want to learn how to do a hang five. They want to learn how to do peg wheelies because they can take it to the ramps and actually use it. But they don't have no one to like teach them or guide them because they're all older. And usually Flatland riders are off in a parking lot.
They're not at Ray's in the
they're
Subaru
not
room.
at a skate park where kids can actually see it being done and be like, oh, that actually doesn't look that bad. But if they watch a video, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. I don't know what's going on. And if you just sit there and like give them encouragement, you'll be amazed at what guys and girls can do.
Yeah.
And even at this event, we stopped riding. All the Flatlanders stopped riding, and all the kids just came and they started doing, the real basic Flatland stuff that Nourie was showing them, and it was cool. It's cool to see that.
So, along the lines of what you're talking about, I just had an idea. I'm just throwing stuff out there. What if there was something like in these AFA whatever, you have a dedicated award that gets promoted for the best non-Flatlander to show up to the event? You have a category that's non-dedicated Flatlander for all of the people who are like, oh, I don't ride Flatland. Why do I go to this thing? Well, guess what? There's a category for you, and like, just
it's an interesting idea because they do have an old school event, an old school category, which was very popular because what it would be, it would encourage someone that maybe didn't ride like the last 40 years and just got a bike recently and is interested in going to a contest, and they don't have to ride expert. They don't have, they're not novice because they have some skills. So there's an old school. So it could just be, I don't know, I would want to just call it something like a real generic term, just like the freestyle class.
yeah, there you go.
Because that's what when I got into riding, it was freestyle. That's what we called it. I had entered contests where you had to ride a ramp. First contest I had to ride a ramp, and I couldn't even do an air. I did a little air, and I nearly crashed on the ramp. But they judged you on overall, and so that's just how it was. It was like a lot of people were riding both.
Right.
And so I think that's a really good idea, and I'm sure James would be open to it.
Yep.
And maybe that's on like people like me and Trevor too, or we do a jam and I've done a lot of jams, and I've never once thought to be like, what if we make an award for the best Flatland? Because there's Marty, Scott, you, Austin Jackson. I would call him, he's starting to get into Flatland more.
Yeah.
Like, I've never even considered that, and I think that maybe it's like this conversation hasn't been had as much yet, and I'm hoping that something like what we're doing right now just is able to open the doors, and then we see that like that freestyle class at the contest, and it's like we're promoting it to everyone else too. And then I bet anything that if you go to companies that aren't Flatland companies and say, look, we have this freestyle, we're trying to get more people, they might be willing to throw in and promote it as well.
Back to having jams, do you ever think to invite the Flatlanders?
No.
And again, we have completely separate
I never have.
things that happen.
Exactly.
With combined events. Even if you reach out to your local Flatlanders and said, hey, we're having a street jam.
Well, that's what this conversation is for.
But we would like you to, come and hang out with us
Right.
and ride. That helps again because people need to see it.
Right, and
That's
like
what
Marty's
the
come
jam
to
is.
our jams at Worcester before, and
people sit
loved
there
it.
and watch it.
People
Like,
love it.
They love it, and they're like, they almost get like inspiration from it.
Yeah.
And you'll see them start doing more like you know, the basics like peg wheelies and hang
We
fives
talk
and
about the
stuff.
kids that came from that are local to me.
Yeah.
Whenever you were there that one day when it was cold and there was literally like everyone just started riding
Yeah.
in the flat area. No one was even on the ramps for a while.
Yeah.
And these little kids are like, oh, I'm gonna try Trevor's tricks. And sometimes now at Worcester Park, like they will come and they'll try a Flatland trick like randomly.
Yeah, and it's good because like I feel like Flatland is the key to ramp riding and the key to like riding itself because you're learning on the ground. Like it's very safe. It gives you perfect bike control, so you actually know what you're doing and how to pull and how to actually manipulate
Spatial
the bike.
awareness on your
Yes.
bike, yeah.
And it definitely helps on the ramps for sure, and it helps in the streets as well.
That makes sense.
Your point about you know, other jams, and so this year at Woodward West, which is their annual old school reunion, we've been asked to do a Flatland segment, and so a few of us were talking about it and like how do we, because I don't really want to do a contest, I don't really want to do a jam, partly because a lot of the riders don't want to come out, even the Flatland riders. They're you know, contests are just like, oh, I don't have a routine or what have you. So I just opened it up and I just came up with this term. It actually wasn't my idea. It was Fred Gates' idea. And it was cash for radness. And basically, it's like anyone can enter. So I said, no routines, no battles, because we often will have battles in Flatland contests where it's like a, you know, battle to the win. And we just want to have people show up and ride. So I think more of those, and you know, when people see that, and yes, this is kind of a niche old school event, but it will be publicized, you will see it, and other people can get ideas from that to incorporate it in other jams. That would just be a freestyle class or, you know, radness class or whatever, whatever we categorize it.
Yeah. Makes sense. I think more or less there just needs to be a conscious effort from like everyone to be able to do anything, because like if I've learned anything, it's if you have an idea and you expect or just hope that it just happens, it doesn't work like that. Like you have to make it happen more or less. So
We should ask this guy how much Flatland is.
hey, do you know anything about Flatland?
Not too much.
What do you know? Come here. This is a case study right now. What do you know about Flatland?
Oh, just like, right, kind of like flipping your bike around.
Wait, I couldn't hear you. Wait, what did you say?
Just kind of like flipping your bike around, balancing on like, it could be 2 wheels, 1 wheel. I don't know. I think it's just like a super technical way without using the power of ramps to be in the air.
Do you know anyone who's a Flatland rider? Any names?
I'm like super close with, but I know there are quite a few dudes here.
Can you name any Flatland riders?
Probably no.
All right.
Like in the professional.
None? Thank you for your participation in the case study.
No, I think there's one more case study. Do you want to learn a Flatland trick right now? Like the most basic Flatland trick.
Give it a go on the big bike.
I love it.
All right.
Let's do this.
This is what I always do. I give riders an option. You want it to be spinning, hopping, or rolling?
Probably just rolling.
Rolling. Okay. So we'll have a little bit of a flat surface. You don't need much. Can I try your bike?
Yeah, go for it.
So what if you were to ride and go onto a flat surface and just stand on your seat? Have you ever tried that?
Yeah.
You've done that. So you are a Flatland rider. This guy's a Flatland rider. He didn't know it. If you're standing on the seat, riding, that's a Flatland trick, right?
True.
Okay. So we want to step it up. Have you ever stand on the seat and the handlebar?
No, I'll give it a go, but
Okay. This guy, he's got two. That's a surfer. If you get to the point where you can stand up, then it's a surfer, right? Okay. So have you ever sat on your seat and put your foot maybe here, and then take your other foot and like kick your tire like this?
never.
Okay. He's not a flatland rider. No, that's not true. That's just another idea of a flatland trick. It's pretty hard on this bike because there's not a peg to step on. You'd have to put your foot there.
To ride
It's
the
not.
bike backwards though.
Yeah, it's not to say you can't do that. But
Yeah.
have you ever rolled backwards?
Yeah.
All right, flatland tricks. So actually, you have quite a few flatland tricks. But have you ever done an Indo on your tire and then I kicked it back like that?
Oh yeah. Over the bars every time.
You've done this? I mean, without a front brake, it's sketchy.
Yeah, it is.
It's another flatland trick, like a wheel walk, they call it, or a Switzerland squeaker.
Yeah.
So you want to learn a rolling flatland trick. All right. Trevor, what should we teach? What was your name?
David.
Hey, my name's Dave too. Okay. What should we teach David this?
I think riding backwards, I think, would be a really safe, easy rolling trick. You could just set up in it and just do it.
Yeah, just ride backwards.
Just ride it backwards.
That was pretty good.
Well, not roll backwards, ride.
You mean sitting on the bars?
I mean, like sitting on the bar.
Yeah, he means like riding the bike backwards.
Yeah, you did a rollback. But he's
Easy
thinking.
setup trick, and you can just learn it pretty quick.
Grab a flatland bike.
Well, this works.
Oh, like that. Yeah, and you can set up in it and just.
Have you ever done that? That's a flatland trick, apparently. I didn't see. I didn't know. This is a perfect little interlude in our conversation.
Basically, I sit here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I would step over the bike, have this foot on the pedal, and then I would just step up and sit on it. I can spot you. Just step over. Foot on that pedal. I'm gonna spot you to start, and then sit down all the way. Sit all the way down.
You want to keep pedaling too, so you keep your balance.
Oh, we didn't quite make it. We're gonna pull it. We're gonna pull it. Okay, go. Go, go.
Pedal. Oh no! You got to keep your balance going. Use your arms and your pedals at the same
So
time.
that would be a fun one.
Yeah.
So we're gonna come back in 20 minutes, and we want to see you do that trick around.
Oh, that's so horrible. I'll stick to my airs.
Okay.
Well,
Case and study.
case study over. It was a good thing though.
Stick to his ears.
A good conversation to have with him, because that's a perfect example of a person who doesn't really know anything about
And that's
Flatland.
That's the thing too. If you wanted to get into doing Flatland, you got to take a little time away from ramp riding and stuff, and it's hard to balance it.
Right.
It's hard to balance it
That's a really good point.
because when I started learning Flatland, I had to devote like 2 hours of my session to learning Flatland because it does take time. You know, it's not easy, but it's also not difficult. There's not, like, the basics are pretty simple, and once you got the basics, that is the start of,
Yeah, it just
Right.
unfolds.
yeah, it starts unfolding. Yeah.
So let's do this to wrap it out. What are the 5 things that somebody needs to know about Flatland who knows nothing? First, let's define it. Just define what Flatland is in general. Like,
Doing any trick on flat ground. No ramp, no rail, nothing.
and then the 5 things for a beginner about Flatland.
One, you're already doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
There's one.
Always have like an open mind and be persistent, and don't worry about crashing or like trying, because you got to keep trying to get it down.
Yeah, I think for me, like, about the open-mindedness, like, creativity is a big one. Originality and creativity is a big one in the contest. And then there's always the technical or degree of difficulty that's judged. And I think that comes after time of putting in, like what Trevor was saying. But I feel like you shouldn't let that get in the way. It's fun.
So there's 3. 2 more things. Somebody who's completely new, they just want to learn something about Flatland.
I say there's a lot of easily accessible tricks. You know, you're watching pros in the videos. That does not mean those are the only tricks out there. There are a lot of very easy tricks you can learn in a weekend.
I learned a lot of the 80s tricks, and that's like where Flatland kind of originated from, and they're not too bad to learn, and they give you great bike control or gateway tricks to what the pros are doing if you wanted to get to that level.
So just name a few of them if someone wanted to look it up. I don't know where they'd look it up, but
Infinity rolls. Good one.
Whoa. Tail whip, boomerang.
Peg wheelies, hang fives, a fork glide.
Yeah.
Steamrollers, full glides. And there's how-tos on YouTube for everything. If you just punch in how to do beginner Flatland, you're going to get a lot of also beginner Flatland videos in general that will cover basic tricks.
there's number 5.
Yeah, and the only other thought I had is also finding other people that are kind of into it. Because like having a little community, even if it's just one other person, there's so much of that playing off of each other.
How do you recommend somebody finds the Flatland people in their area?
I mean, I think the social media is great. Or if you have other riders, say, hey, why don't we spend a little time? I saw this YouTube video of this guy doing this trick called a funky chicken. And he's like doing this thing over the bar. I want to try to do it. You want to work on it with me?
Yeah.
Maybe something like that. And I think as that develops, then you'll get to more of a group and you'll have Flatland sessions.
And I'll add to that, a lot of times you seem that you can't do a trick, but it's a simple thing like a foot position that's wrong. And if you have another rider to ride with, they'll just be, hey, move your foot slightly back, and it just fixes it, and you can then do the trick.
Yep.
So whether it's an experienced rider or a friend, if both of you are working on it, one of you might figure out that little, oh, your foot's in the wrong spot type of information to help progress you forward.
Are there any resources online other than YouTube for anything Flatland related? Groups on Facebook? Anything like
There's
that?
a ton of Facebook groups. I don't know if I could pitch up any names
Yeah,
off the top of my
I don't know any
head.
names off the top of my head,
But they exist?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. A lot of them are age categorized. Like those be like, you know, Flatlanders over 40, or Flatlanders per like. There's a Chicago Flatland group. There's, you know, each region usually has as a group. So if you just type in Flatland, you'll get a list of groups. You can see which one makes the most sense for you.
I think that makes sense.
And always just have fun with it. It's just for fun. You don't have to be the best rider out there. Just have fun and try new stuff, because that's what makes you a better rider. Just trying new stuff and working on stuff. Even if it ain't the coolest thing or the biggest trick, it just helps.
Well, I think it was interesting with our case study with David. Like, he was totally willing. And we're just like, he doesn't even know us. And we're kind of throwing him on the spot. So you could imagine if it was another buddy of his and they're like, hey, let's go practice some Flatland.
Right. I think it's just not a thought in people's head.
Yeah.
And I think the more it's talked about, if there's anything I've learned from everything I've done, it's the more you talk about something that you want to happen, the more likely it is to happen. Yeah. And that's really a lot to it.
Exposure. It's the exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get discouraged either. Like, just because it's not working today doesn't mean it can't work tomorrow, you know? Because it's different than riding normally.
Yeah.
It's a different mindset. And
There's a discipline.
A
different kind of discipline. And you can walk away from a trick and you're thinking, gosh, I don't know. I'll give you a quick story. I entered an online contest in 2019, and it's like a high level, like way out of my league. I got convinced from a buddy to enter. And they're like, just enter Master of Creativity. And I'm like, and that's when people could look up Master of Creativity. It's just see like the level of creativity and way out there. Not to be discouraged, but just be excited to see what people are doing. So anyhow, I thought of this trick to do, and I was like, there's no way. And I tried it. I actually hired a yoga teacher to help me work this out. And I worked on doing like a crow, and I pressed into a stand while I was spinning on the back peg. And there was days where I was like, there's no way. Sometimes you just have to come back to it. And then, like Kim was saying, someone might say, you don't have to hire a yoga teacher per se, but someone can just say, hey, look, Nourie, why don't you just shift it this way a little bit, or try jumping into it like this, and then lo and behold, it clicks. And that's like the best feeling ever, when you hit your first double decade or something that's just insane
And
that
it's-
you've been working on.
It's almost like you've tried it and failed at it so much that like once you get it, you have it.
Yep.
You just start hitting it over and over again, and
Yep.
it's the greatest feeling ever.
Yeah.
That feeling of like accomplishment, like it was hard, but I
That's
did it.
that.
I can just do it.
That thing exists in all of BMX. So it's like a
Exactly.
commonality
Yeah,
there.
For sure.
Right.
And that reminded me of one more thing they should know. Flatland is not a linear progression. There is no exact list of tricks you learn. It's not like
Right.
ramps where you learn a cable first or a double peg first and then you do a Smith. You can pick literally any Flatland trick, and if you practice it enough, you're going to get it. And if you get stuck on a trick, move on to another trick and come back to the first trick later.
Yeah,
That's a good point. That's a good point. So, is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should talk about with, in general, with Flatland and just trying to educate people? I feel like we've had a really good conversation.
I think we can talk a little bit about the bike because maybe there's
That is a good point.
yeah, there's some preconception about the bikes. And
This is number 6. It's a bonus.
yeah, because most, like I started in the 80s, we had 4 pegs and we had a front and rear brake. Most top pro riders don't even have brakes, and their bikes are set up really funky. Like to ride a bike that they're riding in a park, it's gonna be really, the geometry is really tight, head tube's really steep, and that's just how those tricks and those riders have evolved. So I guess my suggestion would be practice a little Flatland, maybe put some pegs on your bike, maybe put a brake, if you don't have a front brake, maybe put a front brake on your bike, because that's only going to enable you to try other stuff, kind of like what Trevor was saying, where he started with the 80s stuff. That's what was kind of the basics. So, and then you could evolve into doing Flatland without brakes, but that is definitely a stepping stone.
Yeah, I really think it's just having 4 pegs, and the bike really doesn't matter. I mean, you kind of want a shorter top tube for Flatland, but the rear end really doesn't matter as long as you're comfortable on that bike. All you really need is 4 pegs, and maybe raise your seat up a little bit so you can actually grab it for like the beginner like steamroller tricks and stuff. But a bike's a bike, so like if you just have a certain things on your bike like pegs and brakes and stuff, you should be able to at least do the basics. You don't need a crazy Flatland bike.
I learned my original tricks in a 21-inch standard motocross.
There you go.
There you go. Any closing thoughts, guys?
I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. It's great. I really appreciate what you're doing because it's good. It's exactly in line with what I feel is important right now. It's just to share the commonality between the two.
Yeah, and just when Kim talked to me yesterday about trying to get people into it, I'm like, how can I help do that? I guess my brain just went to it. So hopefully somebody gets something out of this. And where are you on the internet? How do people find you on the internet?
Pretty much, I don't know my Insta handle. Hold on.
It's on the screen right here. She doesn't know it. That's how much she doesn't care about the internet.
I'm trying to start using my Instagram, maybe. I think
She went through a course.
ask them first. Come back to me.
It's on the screen right here.
Okay, I'll give it.
Dave, where do people find you on the internet?
Instagram or Facebook. It's just my name, Dave Nourie.
Okay.
Pretty easy to find me.
And we all know where Trevor's at.
Yeah, same.
He's also got a new bike company,
I do.
Tech Bike Co.
Yeah, tech bike.
Will those bikes work for Flatland?
They work for it all because they're the new freestyle bike.
There you go. All right.
Cool.
Hopefully this helps somebody or reaches some people. Thanks for watching it. Subscribe if you haven't. Check out all these people on the internet. Check them out in real life if you're near them. We'll see you tomorrow for another video. Goodbye.